Know what time it is?
Oh yeah.
Let's just talk.
We're gonna talk.
We're gonna talk.
Oh yeah.
It's time to talk. Yeah.
Mic on.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Just Talk. We're back after 2 weeks, despite me saying it was going to be a month. I'm here with Ferret Wolf, as usual.
Hey, what's up?
There we go.
How are you going?
And hopefully you can actually hear him for a change and I haven't messed up. So as usual on this show, the most important people here are, of course, you guys. So make sure you're messaging in the chat, letting us know what you think of any particular topic or anything we're doing. Or if you want to send us an email for something a bit more anonymous or have any questions that you want to talk about on the show, then yeah. The intro was very interesting. I want to thank Squitty for the intro. He decided to send me that as soon as we did the last one, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to throw it in. It's beautiful. But as usual, we also have another special guest, and this week's guest is Joe.
Hello. Hey, Joe.
Hello.
How are we doing?
We're good. How are you?
Yeah, all good, I think. Maybe.
Surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same at this point.
Well, I think that's also a brilliant little segue into our news topic. So, our news topic, I'm going to let a clip, because people told us we should have news clips. So, look, I've gone all out. I've tried my best. So, I'm going to show a clip now of what we're going to be talking about, and then we'll get into conversation. So, here you go.
Mic off.
For the sickest COVID-19 patients who are no longer able to breathe on their own, the drug dexamethasone offers a glimmer of hope.
This is the first medicine that's been shown to reduce death in any group with COVID, and that's the start of something.
In a large clinical trial, UK scientists gave 2,000 COVID-19 patients a low dose of dexamethasone. Results suggest the drug saved one life for every 8 patients on a ventilator and saved one life for every 25 receiving oxygen.
But I'm just eternally grateful and will be for the rest of my life.
Catherine Milbank spent 12 agonizing days on a ventilator before receiving the drug. She left the hospital on her 55th birthday.
I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be alive. So, thank you.
Doctors worldwide are excited about this development. This drug is a common corticosteroid, often prescribed to patients with arthritis and asthma. It's available in every hospital pharmacy, and it's cheap. The only problem is researchers haven't yet released their data so that it can be reviewed.
I think there will be some devil in the details when the final publication comes out. It's very hard to practice medicine from press release.
Still, Britain's health minister has granted doctors permission to start giving the drug to all severely ill COVID-19 patients. Canada's top doctor isn't there yet.
It's very important for us to actually examine the results very carefully before making any further recommendations.
We're not talking about some trivial outcome.
But some doctors say they won't wait.
I think that most clinicians who become aware of this study are going to start using it today.
Doctors emphasize dexamethasone won't protect anyone from becoming infected with COVID-19, but they hope it will be the first of many drugs that will save lives. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
Mic on.
Okay, so dexamethasone, a miracle new drug that can help some people survive. Some being the word, unfortunately, but yeah. And I believe, John, you said you've had this before.
No, I've definitely had a corticosteroid because I'm a chronic asthma sufferer. And I know that it's one of the ones, therefore, that's safe to use with asthma when I had an allergic reaction. So, basically, what the drug does is your body has natural, swelling mechanics, doesn't it? Like, when you have a bee sting, it'll turn red and, a bit thick, at the time.
It's so strange you say that. Someone in my work has literally just had a bee sting his eye, and he's got, this huge red plug.
Ow! It's horrible.
Oh, my volume's a little low. Thank you.
Yeah, so when your body gets stuff like that, the skin around it will swell, redden up and swell. And that's what happened. I had an allergic reaction to something, don't know what. But basically, my entire back was covered in hives, and they were trying to give me something to stop it before my throat could constrict, swell up and constrict. Because I'd be getting even less air then. So what they did was they said, this is a steroid. So I'm guessing it should be a corticosteroid because that would be very safe to use with asthma. Because they also use it for stuff like the croup and stuff like that. So, like, babies take it, and I don't think it. I think the croup is actually a baby disease. I'm not sure if you can catch it like after infancy. I'll give it a Google now, but it's a safe drug to use with a wide array of people suffering from, breathing difficulties and stuff like that.
I mean, I've got, by the way, for people who don't know, I've got a laptop now and I've got it open here, which is why I keep looking this way. Apparently it's a very cheap. It's cost £5.40 per patient per day, and it takes about 10 days of treatment. So for £54, that's quite cheap as a treatment per person.
Yeah.
Generally, but what I did see, and because I was googling this over the past few days, what is that? Oh, it's because people type in weird messages. Sorry, I look at the thing as I just went, what is that? And I've just noticed everybody's going 0809, ooh woo. I don't know. But what I did see is we've obviously just seen this clip from Canada, because I felt like it was a clip that had more things up there. I'm trying to turn my volume up. My volume doesn't go further up. It's a pain, this microphone. You guys carry on talking. Keep things busy. I'm going to try and work this out because people can't hear me.
The only thing
Talk about anything.
The only thing I can say about that is that I've never really come across it until Stacey actually showed me the clip. But I'm someone who's got asthma as well. I haven't got severe asthma like Jot does. But yeah, it's the first I've ever heard of it. The fact that they're using this as a treatment. Or some form of treatment, at least.
Well, no, it was Oxford University has taken a group test, so they aren't dishing it out nationwide yet. I don't think. I think it's
no. I know that much.
Yeah,
I know that much. It's crazy.
Test. Okay, I'm much louder now. Okay, sorry.
Hello again.
I don't know why it turned down half the volume. Thank you so much for Digital Dave. Apparently. I don't know Digital Dave. Who's Digital Dave? But thank you for telling me, and I know Doodle said it as well.
Oh, I have to turn you down again on the call.
Sorry.
No, it's alright.
Like twice the volume. What I was going to say was we saw a clip from Canada. I'm way too loud. Now I'm way too loud. I'll turn it... Gosh sakes. Nothing's working.
Technical difficulties.
Hopefully that's better. No, you're not. I'm messing with you. For God's sakes, Huel. Right.
Come on, Huel.
Jesus Christ.
We're trying to talk about very important stuff, and you're just putting a wrench in the works.
Canada clip, we watched, we went, oh, interesting. Okay. But what that clip said was, it was something like, I can't remember the exact numbers and I haven't got it written down, but the amount they said that it helps.
One
for
in
people.
8.
Yeah. But I saw a clip from British BBC News, and the numbers were much higher, as in it would help more people.
No, it's 1 in 8 and people that I can save in a testing group, and then it's 1 in 20 overall, or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like 25 or something like that. You're just getting it from the clip.
News osmosis, basically, from the BBC. It's like,
but I remember...
It's all you can see is stats on these days. And it's
but I remember, I'll see if I can find the one that I saw on the BBC. But that one had a much better chance and possibility on it, and I was just like, huh. Oh yeah, here we go. So, yeah, 1 life in every 8 treated on ventilators, and 1 life in every 25 treated on oxygen. I thought that one had more.
Okay.
Yeah. So it looks almost as if maybe either one or two things are happening, because Canada's not taking it on yet because they want to see how it does further down the line first.
Yeah, that would. Yeah.
Then they might be trying to make the numbers not seem as good because they don't want to make everybody go, oh no, we must have it. Or conversely, British are sitting there going, no, let's push the numbers up so people think we've got a cure.
No, it. You can't mess around with medical tests like that. It's not. You can't change the numbers. They are.
I know, but it's dependent on what they're pushing out to the public, is what I'm saying. The media are pushing out to the public.
Yeah,
that's true.
On here, the one thing I generally do hate about how the media are pushing it is they're treating it as some kind of wonder drug. Yeah, like it
Or
isn't a
miracle
vaccine.
cure.
It isn't a vaccine.
It's a
That is the
fantastic
first
drug that
thing
we found.
No.
It is a fantastic drug because but it isn't a vaccine, and that's the first thing that people need to realize. It's not the cure; it's a cure for the symptoms of what's happening.
But as I saw from the first post that I ever saw about coronavirus when all this started, this whole thing's going to rely on two different factors: how dense the population is and how dense the population is. And unfortunately, that second group, I'm sure, is going to be walking around the place going, "They found a cure! We're all going to live!"
Yeah, and it's the one thing I do respect Canadian BBC for doing, but do not like what the media is doing here, because they're treating it as some kind of wonder drug in most talk shows and newsreels and stuff like that here, which is bound to cause problems, like you said. People are going to start believing it if they're exposed to that, because we've been in isolation for weeks with only Good Morning TV on. So exactly. Yeah, it's the only thing we're exposed to, so therefore it's the only thing we're going to be listening to, isn't it?
And if you watch the show as well, Holly even thinks Phil's got it, because she's sitting 2 meters away going, "Nah, love, it's all right." Just after he came out as gay as well. I'm not saying anything, but yeah.
No, because of the fact that I started working in house support. Basically, I go into a house to look after people with other staff, and usually they have that on. And most other staff have actually gone, "Can we put something else on?" And they've just gone, "What else?" And oh yeah, good point. Reruns of Emmerdale and like old football games from 2016 and
I know
1960 at one point.
Well, I know you're not all fans, but even EastEnders has finished now. They're out of episodes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I watched the Emmerdale episode where the first one, like in that house with them, where they've social distanced the cast from each other.
Oh, okay.
It's like watching some kind of like, communist state social drama, because everything's dark and dreary. There's no interaction other than like this drama that's happening from me to my wardrobe. It's just like it's just like this drama that shouldn't really be working.
I'm just so interested to see it, personally, because I remember like my dad is talking. I don't think my dad understands how soaps work sometimes, but I remember we were talking to him about it, and he just sat there and he said, "Well, it's fun, all the families just stay together and stuff." Like, yeah, but they're not families in real life. Like,
like you watch it and you just go, real people would be closer than that, and real people having these arguments would be far closer than that. So it's so dreary and depressing to watch it. And how did we get to this from medicine again? I can't remember.
It was coronavirus based.
It was
coronavirus.
At least
not much watched on TV. That's what the whole synopsis was.
Just quickly, because it will get us back into the medication. Just quickly going back through the chat. Liam did say in terms of Good Morning TV, goddamn, now we're getting real, and they should give him Netflix. He's also crazed about the fact that EastEnders is done, and why aren't we talking about that? It's not done, it's just stopped until they've made some more episodes that have been socially distanced that we can watch. But back to medication, has said, so how many do they save? 1 out of 8, how can they tell if that's what's saving them, and not that they're just going to survive anyway? I think it's just, and 1 out of 25 doesn't seem super drastic. I think these are chemical trials they've done. They've not just sat there and gone, "You've got coronavirus, here you go." It's all been chemically tested and tried.
It's
so it's proven.
Using patients. It was Oxford University, who I think did our one.
Yeah, didn't they pay stupid amounts of money for people to get a small dose of coronavirus?
Well, they do in most drug testing, tests as well. If it was something like if it was something like an OxyContin based drug or something like that, they still pay people to test it.
Yeah.
But the entire basis of these small tests is to see if it works as a whole, or if it's just to assess if it's just a fluke that it works. And clearly, it does help alleviate the symptoms. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you actually watched any of the differences between just being on oxygen and just being on a ventilator.
I understand the difference.
Yeah,
I know what it does differently.
I'd say with the ventilator, it's just it's great that they are actually using drugs to alleviate symptoms, because you're already in an induced coma, essentially.
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
You?
You're nearly dead at that point.
The thing is breathing for you. So
yeah. pumping the oxygen into your lungs and whatnot, and yeah.
And we also apply out the fact that it says it saves 1 in life every patient, save that on ventilators, and 1 out of 25 on oxygen. It's because when someone's on oxygen, it's bad to be on, but it's not the worst possible state you can be in. So there's probably a lot more people on oxygen than there are people on ventilators, which is why they're seeing sort of that balance, I'd imagine. With it helping 1 out of 8 patients that are on ventilators, that's a massive difference, because those are the patients that it really is crucial in whether they're going to survive or not.
Mm.
And yes, Liam, you should get paid for taking drug. It is a fantastic career path that you should be on. It was.
I mean, I think we'd all.
Let me see if I can find out much
we'd all do it. We'd all do it if we could.
This laptop isn't the fastest thing in the world. Coronavirus.
Give it a good slap.
I just upgraded it.
That'll just solve problems. How'd that upgrade go?
Drug test. How much? I don't know. How much paid? What stupid Google.
Karen just said heroin is pretty popular right now. I mean, it's as popular as it always has been.
You'd get paid £3,500 to get infected with a small amount of coronavirus, which, by the way, could also be in some way a vaccine if your body is okay with it, because that's also the immunity grown in your body. Just saying.
Yeah, that's how vaccines work, I think. Anyway, isn't it? A vaccine does obviously contain part of the virus itself. I think that's what the hepatitis vaccines actually do. They just they boost your antibodies. Sorry, they build up antibodies to combat the illnesses and stuff like that. So even if you did take coronavirus vaccines and stuff like that, you'd still therefore be taking the coronavirus vaccine into it. It doesn't mean anything in medical terms that if you get infected with the disease or not. But with Oxford one, I'm pretty sure they had to use a select group from the ICU, because they already needed to be on ventilators to actually see what the difference it would do to people on ventilators.
Not that you'd have much of a say when you're on a ventilator. I don't know how you get through the permissions for that. Because if you're on a ventilator, it's not like you can do much. Like, oh yeah, I'm great. Don't worry about it. Why don't you give me this drug? It'll be fantastic.
Wouldn't they have to do it for their families or something like that?
No. There's safeguarding issues there as well, because it comes down to the individual and their capacity to be able to tell you whether yes or no. Because
so as long as they can give some sort of signal of yes or no, whether it's just a
okay, right.
Yeah, but if you're in an induced coma, you can't. But that's where forms like do not resuscitate and stuff like that actually come into it as well. Yeah.
I'm aware of that.
When you are admitted into hospital, if you are conscious, that is when you or a trusted what's it called? Basically, like someone who can speak legally for you, a representative. The word.
So
will
you
come
might
to me
get
again.
your wife or your husband to sign on to say I am allowed to make the important decision for this.
They definitely can if you don't have the capacity to do so.
Right.
They can, but the best course when it comes down to a safeguarding issue is if the individual themselves give
permission.
Consent.
Yeah,
that's
consent.
Yeah,
better word.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I love the fact that Liam just put in, if we have your consent, don't move or say or anything. Oh, Jesus. But no, I think this is
not moving, we have their consent, yeah.
I think this is very important in terms of the fact that, I know everybody's saying this isn't a miracle cure, and technically we really shouldn't even be talking about this subject because all it's doing is helping a few more people, but it's got to be the start of something. Surely
it would definitely be a start of something. It's better than not having anything down at all, you know?
If there was no
because otherwise people would be losing hope completely in everyone, and that would just make things a lot worse.
Yeah, but
then we're off.
You need to be careful there not to give them false hope. The entire point of this right now is to boost awareness of it, because although it is cheap to make and cheap to obtain, there is not a stockpiled quantity of this drug that the government can buy, like with flu vaccines and stuff like that.
I was about to say, because I know they have got a pile already stockpiled, but that might just be what's already what we already have in the system as such. I'm guessing that's what that is.
by boosting this awareness of it, it's a way to help them get more, basically, because we don't have enough. We don't have enough to for the quantity of people that are currently suffering from coronavirus, but we will if awareness is boosted enough of it and funding is actually given to, make more rapidly.
It does seem as if, in order to try and avoid that, massive issue with stockpiling and worrying about the drugs, they're probably only giving it to the people that are on oxygen or on ventilators. And probably only the worst case scenario.
The really severe cases, in other words. Like the really severe ones.
Yeah. Because it's the last ditch of hope, isn't it? It would be great if they could give it to everyone, because if it's a corticosteroid, I'm guessing it doesn't really have that many side effects in the grand scheme of things.
A corticosteroid, if you use too much of it, they measure out your lung capacity with asthma, with how much air you can hold and how much you can blow out at any time. If you use the steroid Ventolins and stuff like that they give you enough, it can actually decrease the amount of air your lungs can hold very slowly.
Okay.
So it's important that you take it to doses and stuff like that. So corticosteroids aren't without side effects, but no medicine is without side effects. That the entire point of it is that it changes your body. But
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, would it be something sort of like, I know I'm using an extreme example. I've had a DVT, so they've given me anticoagulation treatment, but they won't give me the high-end, worst possible stuff. So what's that called? Warfarin. Yeah. I'm not on warfarin or anything like that. I'm not on anything really harsh.
Yeah, morphine and tramadol and stuff like that. Yeah, but
if it could have
if you take too much ibuprofen in a day, it can start stomach ulcers. It's stuff like that. So I'm looking at them now. Side effects of oral corticosteroids used on a long-term basis, which is longer than 3 months, include osteoporosis, which is fragile bones, hypertension, which is your blood pressure can go high. It can also cause diabetes, weight gain, and increase your vulnerability to further infection.
Oh.
So if you take too much of a drug, there is bound to be side effects.
That's with any drug, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but under that understanding, we're talking about 2 weeks. That's the length of period someone has at the most in hospital, usually, with coronavirus. So 2 weeks of just giving it from day one, if they could, wouldn't that help? Or is that just me being too optimistic?
Could you ask again? Sorry, Ken.
So if they gave the drug from day one to a patient, say we had an unlimited amount of supply, I know we don't, but say we did, and they just gave the drug to day one, say, you're in with coronavirus, here's the drug, we're going to start you on this, and then hopefully you're not even going to get to a point where you're harsh.
Yeah, that hypothetical, it won't work like that, because it's a corticosteroid isn't used to cure the disease, it is used to cure ease a symptom. So it's kind of like taking a painkiller in basic form. So it's when you have a headache, you take paracetamol to
you
feel
don't take
better,
it
right?
in case you have a headache. I get you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if someone goes, "Ow, I can't breathe," then this can actually ease up the swelling in the lungs and make it easier to breathe. That is what the drug does.
Obviously, they wouldn't be saying "I can't breathe" because if they couldn't breathe, they wouldn't be able to
say it
very well.
I've managed it for years somehow. you might have too.
Yeah, but that's you. That's not like not everyone's going to be like, "I can't breathe." Literally, the first sign would be them choking and struggling to actually breathe.
No,
but I get what you mean.
If they can't breathe, they just act like
yeah, exactly.
No, they just act like the puppets from Team America.
Oh my god!
No, you can't say that. You can't say that.
I'm only joking, you know that. But
yeah, I know. Sorry, I saw a comment just before that. Huel said, "What about a spoonful of sugar?"
It helps the medicine go down.
That's what he said afterwards.
I mean, I'm just looking down here, and it says Huel's putting that. I go with that paracetamol. I'm actually going serious again. He says I go with that paracetamol until the pain is unbearable. And there was a time where I was getting migraines. I was getting migraines. No, it's not, because I was getting migraines almost daily, and painkillers were just getting less and less effective over time. And I think it's because I was taking them on a regular basis. I wasn't addicted.
It's dangerous. They're called PRNs, okay, which is
periodical use, something like that.
No, PRNs are medication that you can get over the counter.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And so yeah, paracetamol, ibuprofen, and constant use of them is as with any medication, very dangerous. Overdosing on paracetamol is actually way more way more dangerous than most people take for granted with it and stuff like that.
No, yeah, I've heard many stories about people ODing on paracetamol, and apparently the effects of that is really, really, really bad.
Well, manual labor makes sense, Karsh. I just saw that thing there. It's like if your muscles are tense, it just means that you're just not,
It's probably just the muscles being sore after you're doing so much manual labor.
It's not used to that much activity. Like if you overexert yourself, if it gets too much, then deep heat and stuff like that, or ice and stuff like that, is easy enough. You don't have to take a pill for it. Whereas a headache, if you get constant headaches, you shouldn't take constant PRNs for them. You should go to the doctor and see, oh look, it might be caused by this and this and this as well. But
that's why I don't get migraines anymore. I was on a medication that caused me to have migraines. They eventually changed it to a different family of medication, and I'm clear.
Which is not. It's not as easy to do that these days, though, especially during this pandemic, because you can't.
Yeah, you can't really pop into the
because
doctor.
they've lessened the amount of times you can actually go to the doctors and stuff like that because of safety precautions and stuff like that.
They are doing a lot over the phone.
Yeah, they do it over the
phone. They are doing a lot over the phone. Yeah. But I had to go through a whole rigmarole just to get my usual prescriptions with it, but just because of the system that they have going on now. But I won't get into that because it's just relevant around here, and it's not relevant on the bigger picture.
I'm sure every single place has their own thing. I remember our local surgery. It's really weird. They've got this window with slats in it, like that, and they've got them open.
I've seen those. Yeah, I've seen those.
They've got them open. Usually it's just
through,
that's what they're doing. They're just feeding it through there. But they're in full PPE when they do that. They've got the apron, they've got the gloves, they've got the masks, everything, just to pass us a prescription through the window. And you just think, Jesus Christ, we're at that point in life.
The reason that mine was because I usually pick them up from a chemist in where I live, but I go to the same surgery that you go to, Stacey. So I had to get that prescription. Get that filled out, send that to somewhere else, have them fax it somewhere else, and then it's like that kind of rigmarole.
No, that makes sense.
I get what Luke
is. Your GP's not in your local area, is it? It's within.
No, my GP is your.
Yeah.
My GP is your GP, and therefore those two villages that they cover. But there is a separate GP here, but because of the fact that I grew up with those GPs, it was
right. Yeah,
I have to pick up my drugs from the chemist here is what I have to do.
Okay,
but it does come down to what Luke was saying, which was it's very difficult to go through the usual channels for doctoring, prescriptions, chemists, all that kind of stuff these days.
Because of safety precautions.
Sorry, I feel like I should clarify for those who aren't British. Yeah, GP is general practitioner, because we tend to standardise. Yeah, we standardise our healthcare through the National Health Service, so we don't pay for it. The gatekeeper to any sort of care we go on to, if we need any further care, is a general practitioner who checks if we need to be seen by a specialist at all. That way, it saves the NHS a bit of money, and we see someone straight away, so it works out mostly straight away. I won't go into that one.
Yeah.
So, just for people who are a bit confused why we keep saying GP is the first doctor you ever see, is your GP. For whatever condition you have, unless you've been sent to hospital, you always go and see a GP first, and then they refer you on.
Bad, because literally doing that entire conversation of us talking about GP and Jot being all like, I go to the same GP as your GP is my GP. Literally, I thought of her GP, my GP, she, me, she, our GP.
But here's the other confusing
that was the only
thing.
thing that popped into my head all of a sudden.
Here's the other confusing thing, because this is a Britishism. We may say we go to the same GP, that doesn't mean we see the same doctor. It just means that we're going to the same doctor's surgery, and it's probably one of those doctors, so we're possibly seeing the same one, but we know we're kind of seeing some... I don't know, it's confusing. It's just something we say. Hospital porter is greater than a GP doctor. What?
Explain.
I think Huel does need to explain that one because they're two very different things.
Explain that. Explain that.
Did find
no.
it.
If that was his response, no. You'll not get an explanation. I will leave you hanging.
Did find it weird speaking about that. General practitioners, I think, get a year's worth of training after their usual med school stuff. If you want to specialize to be a pharmacist, that's a 3-year intensive course on medicine. So,
but anybody who's been to a GP in the UK, whenever you need a medication, they're the ones that go, "Here you go. This is this is what you need." They know it all already, and they had it for a year. Why do they need 3?
The chemist. If you go to a chemist, they might prescribe you different stuff according to you as your specific needs, whereas the GP prescription is more generalized. So
right,
which
explains why it took me ages to change that medication where I was having the migraines.
Yeah, so if you go to a chemist and you actually have your consultation there, chances are they might actually prescribe you a different medicine to what the GP would, but it's not a guarantee, obviously, because most GP, they know exactly what medicine goes with what. So yeah, they have a straight up idea with it. But pharmacists and chemists, they have more training as to what drug does what and what specific ones apply to which fields and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
Before you think that GPs are absolutely incredible, Huel, the way you're saying it, I've had a couple of GPs have to Google things for me, so that's happened. And literally Google as well, not any particular system. They just went on Google. I'm not even joking.
Liam's one tickled me. General practitioner, previously lieutenant general practitioner. Field marshal practitioner is next. And
I see. I didn't want to particularly...
my sister works in a pharmacy and she knows so much.
Yeah,
I'm aware.
Is she still training, Karen, or has she actually passed the studies now and stuff like that?
That's what I was going to ask. Whether she was more trained in house and stuff, or what's going on? Vice Admiral Solicitor. What?
Apparently, she's a Vice Admiral Solicitor.
Oh wow, very interesting. And you don't know, right? Well, you see, there's this thing you do within families, which is talk.
Good talk.
Yeah.
Good talk.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, you're a chemist now. Okay, and just switches off there. Actually, just told them, "Yeah, I'm training to be a chemist now." Oh yeah.
I mean, that was the thing from day one. Speaking about medication and stuff, that immediately they were like, "Right, don't take aspirin, don't take ibuprofen as well." Like, that was from day one before they really knew what they were going for. But they obviously had an idea what part of the body. Is it just me that thinks, right, this part of the body's been the issue, so we look at drugs that affect that part of the body, or is that what they're doing? I don't know.
Well, no, because if something's being affected in your body, it could be being affected by multiple parts of your body.
True.
So, if you're suffering from depression, there could be something wrong with your thyroid and stuff like that. It might not be general anxiety and stuff like that. So, the diagnosis is important, but then following up on that diagnosis to what medicine you need is really important. So that's why pharmacists are trained so in depth with it.
The reason I'm thinking
Are you sure you're not a secret pharmacist yourself, Joe, or a secret doctor?
It's the work
No.
It's like he works undercover as a doctor, like in
undercover.
Undercover, he's just like, shh, I'm a doctor. Don't worry, I'll help you.
Undercover.
No, he's the doctor everybody wishes they were. He's the doctor that if he was on a plane and someone was having a heart attack and someone said, "Is there a doctor here?" He can go, "Nope."
Not get involved. Stand up and sort them, and they just go, "Nope."
It's like, no, secret doctor. You can't see me. Instead, he just sort of stalks people, like who cough, or something like that. And he's like, "Here, I've got something for you. This might help." You never saw me. And then he just walks off.
"We need help here." "Don't worry, I'm not a doctor."
Wink, wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Jesus. But no, the reason I was mentioning it and stuff is because I know they're doing a lot of tests into anticoagulation. Into anticoagulation medication at the moment because they're noticing that people are getting pulmonary embolisms. So for people who don't know what that is, it's a blood clot that breaks off, gets into your lungs, and essentially makes your lung collapse. So they're looking a lot into anticoagulation treatment, which would break up and stop these blood clots from forming in the first place. So it's why I keep mentioning it, because they clearly know that there is an issue with lungs collapsing. So surely they're just looking into medication that affects that. So I would imagine
but
like fine because I'm on anticoagulants anyway.
Anticoagulants are blood thinners, aren't they? So you can't give them without knowing for sure with other stuff. Because thinning blood can also lead to other problems in the body.
Yeah.
And stuff
I mean,
like that. Exactly. So it's all about finding that balance and stuff like that. And with the corticosteroid to get back on track.
Except for witch I love me some ooh-ee wallow wallow bing bang.
Oh my god!
I want to have what? It's the Love Doctor.
It's a song. Yeah,
it's the Love Doctor, isn't it?
I was reading that out. I was like, wait a minute, I know this. That rings bells.
I told the witch doctor. I just wanted to get this out because we're talking about anticoagulants. Like I have my list of, as comes with all medication in Britain, list of side effects. It's quite a big one.
Yep. I just saw that like unfolding there.
It folds out to the point where she hides her entire self.
She has to like mount it on a wall with pins.
Right,
it's like a map.
Don't take anticoagulants. Common side effects. This is common in 1 to 10 people. You could be bleeding from your eyes.
Yep.
What the heck?
That's the first thing that comes up. Bleeding, including in your eyes.
It's like, when you take blood, are you crying right now? No, I'm just bleeding from the eyes right now. Don't mind it. It's just a side effect.
Jesus Christ.
When you take blood thinners, it lowers the amount, like the density of your blood, and therefore it can also like lead to iron deficiencies and stuff like that. It means that you can bleed without stopping.
I'm aware of that. I was warned about that. The fact that if I cut myself, I need to put pressure onto it and hold it for a much longer time than I would normally because it will take longer for the blood to clot. But from your eyes. Jesus.
Yeah, did you see what Mark said? Mark Beta 1 said, side effect from watching PewDiePie.
It's bleeding from your eyes. Oh, most likely.
I just imagine that. I imagine that PewDiePie is what they put on during that Clockwork Orange like torture scene where the guy's got the pins in his eyes. He's just staring at like the Hindenburg crashing, and then PewDiePie just like comes in.
You and I know how to edit. While we're in the middle of this, you need to grab a copy of Clockwork Orange, find that clip, and just change every clip from like those Nazi clips to PewDiePie. You can see him sitting there going,
"Oh, Liam asked me not to." So
a little known fact about that actual scene. The actor who was actually getting his eyes peeled back like that. Apparently, it caused a little bit of damage on his eyes because the actual metal parts that were clamping his eyes open actually scratched the outer layer of his eyes.
Kubrick filmed his scenes like 170 times.
I know he did.
He'd be stuck there with those pins there.
It's like the one thing I learned about Kubrick is
like cheese grating his eyes out.
The one thing I learned about Kubrick is he's an incredible filmmaker, but nobody wanted to fucking work for him.
No.
It was just too much work. Jesus, now this has gone into a tangent. Jesus Christ almighty.
Yeah, it really has. It happens with us talking. We always go off on a tangent.
Hey, look,
it's a good tangent.
Talking. We're just talking, it's fine.
It's a good tangent. Eases off the tension.
But I mean, working on the same thing, they do believe if tests carry on as they have been doing so far, and so far it's still good, we could see a vaccine by September to cure coronavirus.
Is that for certain, or is that just sort of a guess?
Well, it's BBC News and lighting and stuff, but it's BBC News, so it says AstraZeneca ready to supply potential vaccine in September.
Yeah, but they still need to go through testing and stuff like that. And
I don't think they should have given out a date because that'll just give out false hope. It'll just give out false hope.
Their first guesstimation was a year on March, and then another guesstimation was 2 years on March. You can't do that with vaccines.
You can't estimate. You can't possibly just give a definite date on like when it be out.
You can give a target date. You can give
target dates, but you can't just go say, yes, it'll be out on this
definitely
day.
have it by then. Yeah.
Oh wait,
you just don't do that.
Wait, I read it. Scientists have warned that a coronavirus vaccine, if developed, might not confer full immunity.
Yeah, see.
So what's the fucking point? We got a vaccine, it doesn't work.
False hope. That's exactly what
it is. False hope.
Yeah.
Should we literally just call this episode False Hope?
There we go, we got a new
vaccine.
episode. Well, the first episode was the B, and now it's False Hope.
A false hope or a new vaccine.
If you think on it, Stace, it's a novel coronavirus. Other viruses include the common cold, the flu.
Sorry, it's just the way you went. Other viruses include,
but not limited to.
Not limited to.
No, but it's like when you think about that, we don't have a cure for the common cold. Our virus vaccines, there's hundreds of them. When someone tells you that they're going to get the flu vaccine, the surgeries have not got a flu vaccine. They've got the flu vaccine that they've predicted that strain of flu is going to hit the most that year. So viruses mutate and faster and faster all the time. So there's not going to be an overall one cure for it. It's just going to be something that builds up slow immunities and stuff like that. It's the one reason why herd immunity is kind of like it's really important with like other vaccines and stuff like that. But viruses are really hard to sort with a vaccine.
I feel like I need to mention with the common cold though, we should never cure it. As films have taught us, it will kill aliens when they get here. So we need to look after the common cold.
War of the Worlds actually teaches us there that, getting rid of all our diseases is pretty much a bad idea.
Just imagine that. Aliens suddenly come in and literally we're just giving ourselves the...
Okay. Hello? Okay,
just see, like, all these,
just guys, sorry. You guys froze for 2 minutes for me then, completely, so I didn't hear that last bit. I just heard Ferret go, if aliens get here, which means they didn't hear it either.
No, what we said was, he said he's just imagining it, but I just went, what if they came down during lockdown? Because then people would be on their doorstep just saying, get inside! Go inside and stay there! War of the Worlds would be so different if the alien invasion was stopped by lockdown instead of, an actual pandemic. They're just like,
do you think aliens...
we can't get out of our flying saucers now. We're just stuck here.
Do you think aliens having a real hard time probing at the moment because they've got to keep social distancing up?
Yeah.
Well, we're keeping the humans under observation. They make
the probing pole a little bit longer, so they do it from a distance. They sort of just go,
oh. It's quite funny, actually. I saw a news clip from S4C in Carnarvon, of all places, which is our local town, by the way. And it was all in Welsh and stuff, but there was just this woman who was doing the report, and every now and then the camera would cut to her holding the longest boom pole on Earth, just there, like, this is heavy on the end. Just like trying to...
Hang on, Karen just asked an important thing there. He asked if every vaccine is not guaranteed 100% to work, and he did point out, the MMR vaccine has 99% of people protected from measles and rubella, and 88% people, according to the NHS. Now, the important thing to take away from that is 99% of people and 88% of people are not going to have measles, rubella, or mumps. That is what herd immunity is. It's like the amount that are susceptible to it are better off if everyone who is viable for the vaccine has their vaccines.
I saw a clip from BBC News that said that at the moment the coronavirus is killing 54% more people in the UK that would die normally. So why can't we just reduce that down?
I know you're not Italian, Karen.
If it reduced it down to, coronavirus is killing 5% more people, people would be like, oh, we're all right. But 54% is the issue. So if we can stop it from killing most people, I think we'll be like, do you know what, we're done now. We're fine. It's the end of it. Like, old granny 103-year-old there might die. Fuck her, she's lived a long life. Don't care.
Wow.
As
long as the rest of us is all right.
No, that's neglecting your duty of care, though. To levity aside, that's the reason. That's the drawback, in a way,
as a whole.
And the best part of our society that we do.
Yeah.
Hello.
I just mean as a whole, as long as we can keep the majority of people alive, that's the important part.
Yeah, ethically speaking, that's a completely different argument as to why we should vaccinate, and the people that vaccinations don't work for. It's a completely different question then of whether you willfully neglect them and accept the fact that they're going to die, because it comes into ethics and morals then, rather than
but I mean, ethics and morals
purely scientific.
I've been a bit strange here, haven't they? Because wasn't there some sort of report? Can't remember which country it was. I don't know if it was our country that said that people were signing fake DNRs for people because they just thought they're not going to survive anyway. So what's the point?
That is pretty bad. Because
find it.
Then again, when it comes to
it's going to a laptop.
Yeah, I'm
with
finding
information.
It wouldn't be here. Well, it would actually, be here if it's illegal, because we have anti-assisted suicide laws. If people want assisted suicide, they have to go to Dignitas clinics in Switzerland now and stuff like that. Yeah, but if people were signing fake ones, it would mean that it would need to be a law in place.
I do apologise. There's a whole BBC News thing about it that said that news was fake.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I do apologise.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
Fake news.
Even though it was in the Guardian, it was in the Independent, it was in the Mirror, it was in the Telegraph. Like
I said,
it was fake.
That does come down to the safeguarding issue, then, doesn't it? Because those individuals do have the capacity to tell you yes or no. It's just that they don't currently have the consciousness to do it.
Yeah.
So,
but I remember
do not resuscitate.
Who was they were categorizing the people that were going to help most with the people who could have a higher chance of survival, and they were telling people because their hospitals were overfilled and stuff, and it was an extreme case.
That's triage. There's a subtle difference between neglect and triage.
No, I know, but whereas in this country we're trying everything with everybody because we still have the NHS availability, we still have the hospitals. In fact, our Nightingale hospitals, which is our pop-up hospitals in case things get too bad, have barely been used, which is incredible. We're treating everybody, but when in Italy, I know they did turn around to particularly the elderly and stuff and said, look, you might as well go home and spend some time with your family and say goodbye.
That's exactly what... That doesn't come down to actually neglecting them and leaving them to die. It is the realization that they don't have the facilities and resources necessary to help. Yeah. So they could have been waiting in a hospital corridor uncomfortably until they could die and stuff like that. That is what that means. Whereas the subtle difference between triage and the neglect thing is in triage, if you see two people, one of them has bashed their head, but the other one has lost their leg, you would first aid. You would have to treat that guy who's lost the leg first because he's in danger of dying from blood loss. But then you'd move on to the other guy. Neglect is picking which one and then only treating them.
But that's
it's
a strange degree though, because in Italy they were literally turning people away, and they said, "Look, you've got no chance of survival. Piss off. Go home."
That's the inability then, because by the time they'd have gone through triage, they could already be dead. Is what I mean there. It's like, and by being there in the hospital, they were at risk of infecting other people who didn't have it and stuff like that. I'm not going to apologize on Italy's behalf here or anything like that.
No.
Clearly that practice is in itself wrong. But when you look at Italy, they got to it much, much later than everybody else. So it was a widespread pandemic by that point. It was a national emergency at that point. Whereas
although
ours had more time to manage, even though we didn't act in enough time.
That's what I was going to say. Our numbers, although it's worse, we have spread it out more as such. So we've never really had that massive pressure from the NHS that we were worried about having. So we're better in that respect, that we didn't have to turn anybody away. But unfortunately, we have still got larger numbers, and I still think we could have done more. But I feel that's a discussion for another day almost.
We'll
be here for a whole other episode if we pick up on that one.
Christ,
is Martin with, man, I'm glad I'm in Germany. I'm the guy people are warning you about when they say this is what would happen if we lost World War II.
Jesus. Yeah, getting forced to learn German, is that it? Oh, bless. Well, it's been a good hour of conversation about that. I feel like we can move on to a different topic. So, as usual with our guests on the show, we like to ask them if they've got any particular topic. And if you guys want to come on the show, all you got to do is send either myself or Ferret a message on the Discord, which I will post up a link for anybody who doesn't have it. Just asking, you can pop on. It might be awesome. It might be cool. Don't think that Discord link actually worked. I do apologise. I will find one while Jot tells us about his personal topic.
Well, before I do, did anything get sent in that we could talk about? Because my one's more like a general basic thing. So if anything like got asked specifically,
did. I'll check now and see if anything has since we've started. Oh, Huel has emailed.
What has he?
Okay, yeah. Okay, that is definitely something we can talk about. I usually leave that till towards the end, so it's up to you if you want to. Jot, do this one?
No, I'm okay to do that one first if you want to, because mine's more of like a general broad topic. Like,
so,
nothing specific.
I did say it was going to be anonymous, and I've already said who it was. Sorry, I do apologise. But it said, what do you think if you feel useless as hell, and no matter what you try and do, what you apply yourself to in skills or anything that you'll never be good enough? Oh, I did not speak that properly. So, let me do that one again. What do you think if you feel useless as hell, and no matter what you try and do, what you apply yourself to in skills or anything that you'll never be good enough? The idea of living a less than remarkable life and achieving nothing of value scares me a lot. So I do know what particularly this is about, and it's not my place to talk about it and why he's sent this message in particular. But he's skimming on the idea of the fact that, you know, you may have so many ambitions and aspirations for life, and no matter how hard you try and apply yourself to it, you just don't reach that, and how you may feel useless about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're a perfect little group to talk about that, funnily enough.
Yeah, that kind of hits home for me a little bit.
Yeah. The first thing the first thing that you could do on a completely neutral level is assess what that standard of success actually means to you. It's a very difficult one to talk about, like, because it's definitely a personal subject between person to person.
Definitely.
And it's one of those subjects that you can't really do without comparing to personal experience or comparing to other experiences.
Yeah,
well, I'm happy to talk about my personal experience and how I'm coping with that personally. And the thing I went to just go and get was this. So that there is my degree that said that I went and studied media studies with theatre in university. I also have several diplomas and stuff going through here as well, all in filmmaking and similar topics such as that. And I'm not working in film. I have worked in film. I've done a few little things. So I worked for What Culture for a short period of time, did a few videos for them. I've worked for a director who wanted me to edit his feature film, but unfortunately none of them have led on to anything else. And how I'm doing it is I'm going, well, if I can at least keep this passion of mine as a hobby at a minimum, then even if I can't get to that point, I've got something that allows me to outlet what I've learned. And although there's been, I mean, we were talking about this just before we started streaming, the fact that last year a group of us had decided to go filming in Manchester, filming the homeless, making a documentary about them. And literally the day before, I dislocated my knee and we were unable to go. But that is me. That is what I'm doing. That is me trying to do this stuff. And although it's gone on a bit of hiatus, especially with coronavirus, I'm planning on moving out soon into my own property. And I've been speaking to Huel and another friend of ours, Garam, about making a film after I've moved out. So I think as long as you still have that outlet and you still have something that, even though you can't achieve what you wanted to, don't stop trying to achieve it. God, no. Keep applying for every single job that goes. But have something that goes, at least I can do this, and at least it keeps me going, and at least it's something I enjoy doing.
It's assessing what that success is to you is incredibly important, because you have your ambition in life, you have but if it is something grandiose, like actually making an impact and stuff like that, the reality is you're only going to get there one small goal at a time, and the bigger that ambition is in the end, the longer the path is definitely going to appear, because it's like any journey on a train stop, really, isn't it? The furthest it is, there's going to be way more stations in between you and it. So it is always keeping your eye, keeping it in the broad part of your mind, the end game goal, but always looking for that one small goal, one at a time, every single time.
One. I was literally going to say something similar to what you were going to say. Start with all the little goals that you have, or make up a goal, or something like that. Just make up any form of goal that involves your passion, and then do that first. And then once you get to that, just make another goal, and then just keep going. Because if you just stop there and just give up, then it's like it's not gonna get you anywhere. It's just gonna make you feel more worse about yourself.
The pursuit of what you want to do, but
just
don't
keep
expect
trying.
Almost.
Don't expect anything grand out of it, but just keep going for it. Just keep trying at least.
And
and as Stacey said, keep it as a hobby if you can.
And every single one of those small goals, you need to assess if they will, in fact, lead to that end ambition, or if not. And if not, well, it's still something you can be proud of in the end. Like, you should not feel bad about it. You should not feel as if you are not achieving something if you achieve something, but it has no relation to what you are. It's personal development. That's all life is. It's just a series of personal development.
I think my brother's a fantastic example, and I know it's difficult because some people, myself included, are like, but I want that now. But my brother's a fantastic example. He, throughout his entire life, was sort of like, I want to be big in music and I want to make fantastic songs and stuff. And as time's gone on, he's gone, well, I still want to do that. And he is still doing it, and he makes the odd single, and he's still on Spotify and stuff if people want to listen and things. You know, he still tries to do that. But he said, what I'm happy about now is I have a wife and I have a child. And that is my life complete. And if you ask him, he says he's the happiest person in the world. He may still have issues, like where he's living at the moment, he's not particularly happy, he wants to move back down here, which I think he's going to next month, funnily enough. Amazingly.
Ooh, right.
Super excited because I have my little niece running about. But as a grand whole, he feels as if his life's already complete. He's already done everything he needs to do because he's given himself a realistic life goal and expectation, and he's realised he's getting happiness from that. But he's still not giving up. He's still sitting there going, to my parents, Mum, Dad, can you look after Ella for a while? We're going to go and play a gig. I'm like, you go play a gig, you go and enjoy what you enjoy doing. And if it does turn into something someday, fantastic. And if it doesn't, you're still enjoying it, and you've still got this fantastic life that you've built around it.
It does come down just a little bit to live in the moment, but never ignore the future, but always live in the moment.
And it also helps when you surround yourself around the right people for it as well, because if you're surrounding yourself around the wrong people, then it's not going to help it at all. You need those people that will fully support anything that what you do. It helps. It helps me as well, because there was a point where after when I finished college doing art and design, there was a point where I just got so fed up of just drawing, because I was drawing for about 3 years, like non-stop, to the point where I got really burnt out. And then literally it was about a year or so where I just stopped drawing, which obviously had its drawbacks because I kind of lost the capability and the enthusiasm to do anything in related to drawing. So, and I'm talking like traditionally, like with pen and paper and all that. I barely do pen and paper drawings these days. But it led on to me doing something else, because I wanted to go back into pixel art and to do more graphical design based stuff. So I moved on to that, and then eventually that led back onto me getting back into digital drawing, so like drawing out illustrations of like characters that I have.
It's
there was a point where I stopped again.
With Luke as well. Literally everything you're seeing around us is actually designed by him. So all the little sprites and all the little windows and everything, that was
I forgot about that.
It was completely Ferret's design, and he's done all this, and they are fantastic, and I love the little. And my favourite one's the guest one, the little cute one. It's just there, like
it's like a blue squid man that's just doing the.
You'd love it.
Yeah.
It's just the standard guest one we have, but I just love it.
Yeah. But it literally got to the point where over time there was a point where I even burnt myself out on doing that. So I had to take a break from that, and it's not a bad thing to take a break from something that you're passionate about, because sometimes you can hit your limit on doing something. Just go do something else that you're passionate about, and then eventually just go back into it. But
like, you'll definitely burn out if you're doing too much of what you enjoy. Like,
yeah, I feel that's worth reading out.
I feel that it depends on the context, how long you've been trying to do your things. If you've just started, don't be too hard on yourself. If you've been doing it for quite some time, try and reconnect with other people. Like what Ferret's saying, ask art friends to help you, and use your community or inspirations to help you motivate you. But also sometimes it's taking a short break is nice in case you put too much pressure on yourself. Yeah, I didn't even see that until now, Doodle. But yeah, I was literally going to move on to the fact that it got to the point where I sort of just lost patience in drawing again, and then there was a point where Doodle herself actually gave me some encouragement to actually get back into drawing. So recently I've been working on a sketch. It's still not quite done, and I've been working on it for quite some time, but at the same time it's like a mini goal for me to complete. It's like a full sketch of a character that I have. But yeah, it's the whole point of that is, if you feel like you're fed up with doing something that you're passionate about, there's no shame in taking a break. Also, just surround yourself in the right people to get you motivated again, because it always helps. It definitely helps me.
Yeah.
Definitely helps me.
Yeah.
But
I think
no matter what, don't lose hope in that.
What is important as well with all this is never compare yourself to somebody else. Because no matter how well you think they're doing in their life, there's something that they're really upset about, and there's something that's not working for them. So if you sit there and think, oh, but I wanted to be a big film director, but John, who I went to school with, is now a big film director. Why isn't that me? Well, John's also never had a girlfriend, and he's never been in a relationship, and he's finding it very difficult that he can't find anybody to love. But all you're seeing is the positive of him having this director life, and you're thinking his life's brilliant because of it. Everyone's got their issues, and just because it seems someone's getting well with their life doesn't necessarily mean that's the case. So don't ever compare yourself to someone else.
Yeah. That's
my thought.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that. I've done that in the past, and it does not help at all. Because I've always found myself like comparing myself to other people that I look up to who do drawing and all that, and sometimes I can't help but feel jealous, but at the same time I can't help but feel somewhat inspired by what they do, which also gives me the motivation. So even though there's points where I feel jealous of like other people doing similar stuff to what I do, in some way it does give me that sort of push or motivation to get on with it. It's like one of those moments where you're like, why am I sat here just feeling sorry for myself and being jealous of someone that's doing something else? Why just get to it, get working on it, instead of just sitting there feeling sorry for yourself.
I think Doodle struck a really important point there. I'm not going to lie, it's one of the things that we could generally do like a 2-hour talk on, but it's the pressures that is put on us with the society that we live in today. Yeah. She said social media, but there's also fashion magazines, and fashion shows, there's standards of living, comparison to celebrities and stuff like that. There's so much that you could talk about there, where we as a society have gotten used to being exposed to people who we admire now on a near constant basis. Like, I can't think of a day where I don't read up on some celebrity, or I see some celebrity, or I see a meme about a celebrity like that. Yeah. So it is just real self-worth does not come from your image of yourself always, because of the simple fact that that image can be corrupted and have bias from what you're comparing it to. Now, so it is always about just keeping focused on that goal, and even if you're judging yourself to be, to not be getting anywhere, it might not be true because of the simple fact that you might have a biased outlook on your own abilities and your own self-development.
That's too true. That hit home. That hit home. You went too deep.
I'm incepting. No,
Joe, where you going? I can't see you anymore. Take my hand.
5 levels too deep. You gotta get me out of here.
But yeah, you got really, really, really good points there, Joe. And literally, I'm just sat here nodding. I look like a bobblehead at that point. But yeah, everything that you're saying.
You look like my character avatar right down here.
I just want to look at digital saying, also, if I can add something else, topic dependent. Yeah. I think that today people have standards for instant gratification and lack of patience, which is a fair point. I mean, you want to just... Everybody's got that dream, don't they? That they finish school, college, university, whatever, and they just walk into their dream job, and that's it. Instant gratification, but nobody's done that. Everybody works hard, and there is a small percentage of people who manage to get that instant gratification, instant, easy life. You know, like, oh, have you seen blah, blah, blah? He was a millionaire at 18. I don't care if he's a millionaire at 18. I'm happy where I am now, thank you, earning £1,000 a month. You know?
Minimum wage for life.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Wage.
No, but it is true. I never saw myself doing what I'm doing right now.
No, don't think I did.
And definitely, I'm still in the stages where I'm still getting used to it. But I think it was Digital Dave that posted the thing earlier with the Dunning-Kruger effect. That was the one, wasn't it? Where
I just saw that, and I thought that's a very strange one.
You start off in it's comparable to this. You start off in a job, and you think that I can do it. And you're full of confidence, but then as you come to realize as that job goes on, you get reports back, you get feedback and stuff like that make you, maybe I'm not doing that so well, and your confidence will tank at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that as time goes by, the more you understand and know about that job or hobby or whatever that you're doing grows. And it is about that realization, and therefore, when you realize that, you grow confident again in doing it. It's all about overconfidence at the start when, like you said, with coming out of school and stuff like that, it's just like, I've got a dream, I'm going to go get that dream, and then life hits you and you turn into a cynical British person. But
that's how British people are born.
We are pounded day and night with these ideas of you're never going to get anywhere and stuff like that. But no, and then on top of that, yes, Twitter, social media, celebrities, everything else. It doesn't help the comparisons at all. No. It is all about realizing that the passage of time is what will grant you experience, knowledge, and no one can predict the future. That is the most important take back out there. It's like no one can predict the future, and yes, we're all going to be afraid of it. But if we lean on each other and we understand ourselves enough, then it will actually make it that much more bearable.
Yeah. Also, when you were saying that, literally the one saying that came to mind is that we got to learn how to crawl before we can learn how to run.
Well, yeah, but
in some ways, because you can't just run headfirst. Well, you can run headfirst into it if you want, but sometimes it doesn't work for everyone. Sometimes people would prefer to start at a crawling pace of where they're at, and then slowly, gradually get to where they want to be. Because for some people, if they rush things, they end up forgetting that one thing, which is self-improvement.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Yeah, say you came out of education and you wanted to be the most famous actor in the world. You could go out and do little extra jobs and stuff like that, which pay a tuppence and mean that you can't even afford a roof over your head. Or you could be clever about it and get a crappy little shop job and do the odd little extra work here and there, or appear in this and appear in that, and then eventually perhaps turn into something else. But if you end up going to somewhere where you've got no money, you end up destitute, no job, homeless, and all of a sudden everything breaks around you because you've been too passionate almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about realizing who you are, what you have, all that stuff. But the reality is, if you have a dream, it's great. It's beautiful.
Oh, go for it.
I really hope that you do eventually get it, but it's all about adaptation, knuckling under the reality of the present. Yeah, but the way we manage that is understanding ourselves and relying on other people as support. And if you're lucky enough to have those connections there, then beautiful, great, it's fantastic. But I understand that not everyone will be lucky enough to have that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But if it is not a case of understanding that your dreams aren't unreachable, because that would be horrible. Always keep your dreams
it's
within
about
reach.
managing how you're trying to get to your dreams. Don't sometimes a full-on direct approach saying that's the only way I'm going to do something is actually worse than going, I'm going to try my best but make sure that I'm sustainable and I can look after myself while I'm doing this.
Yep.
So if you have to work in a crappy little shop job and tell people have a good day, then do that and kick yourself when you get home. But at the same time, go for that extra work. Go for, the little extra things that help you. Or then again, if you do want to work in a shop for the rest of your life, then fair enough. It's your life.
I work in retail, and I'm going to say this now. I really don't want to be working in retail for the rest of my life.
But then I've been working in retail for what? Gosh, since I must have been 21 when I went into retail. So yeah, I've been working in retail for 6 years, and it's not fair.
I've been working in a little bit less, but I've been working in retail for about, I want to say 3 years, but I'm pretty sure it's probably a little bit more than that actually, which is crazy because it just doesn't feel like that. But yeah, I don't see people have asked me at certain points, do you see yourself doing this long period? And honestly, I've always told them not really. I'm sort of just keeping this job until I know I can actually, go out and get something else. The
experience that you get in that job definitely adds to your personal development.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything you do in life adds to that personal development.
I still feel super proud because the job I'm doing at the moment, I'm a supervisor, and that is 2 promotion levels. So I got promoted to key holder, then to a supervisor. And I know that's because I've got so much experience in retail and that I know what I'm doing when I get in there. And I still feel quite proud, even though the fact that I am working in retail in a field that I don't particularly enjoy. I feel so proud that people have seen what I can do and thought, yep, we need to promote you twice. I think that's, and I'm proud of that. And be proud of the little things like that. I don't have to sit there and go, yeah, but I'm still not working in film. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just beating yourself up.
Think like that.
I'm seeing where Digital Doodle's saying, it's interesting, Digital, does having a passion mean you'll be good at it? Yeah, I know. We mentioned quickly the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is for each of you to answer. Knowing what you know now is in your chosen field. If you were to start again tomorrow, what would you change?
See, I think that's a cop-out there, because if I knew what I knew in my chosen field, I wouldn't do my chosen field. I'd grab more knowledge from another source at that point, wouldn't it? So,
I mean, I can sit there and go, I've got a massive interest in computers. Why didn't I go to university and do computer design or computer programming or something like that? That might have had a more practical effect today. No, I did what I preferred and what I felt like was my passion in life. So I actually don't think I'd change anything. Even though I'm not where I want to be, I don't think I'd change anything. I still think I've still got to learn where I need to go to.
No, we're still in our 20s. Let's face it here, yeah. So
we're not going, oh, I wish I had a better life.
In comparison to life expectancy nowadays, that is a quarter done. There's still more to come. You can't make that kind of decision when you only have the beginning of it to go from. Like the reality behind that question is that there is a cop out there, because if I knew exactly what I knew now in my chosen field, what I do is go to university and learn something completely different. If I came out of university having done exactly what I had done, and I'd have probably just skipped my first part-time job to try and go straight for the job that I'm doing now or something like that. Like, because of the fact that I then realized, they were hiring at that time and stuff like that. And that's more a circumstance rather than a reality fact, if that makes sense. It's like it could have been the other way around easily.
But with that same idea, if we could predict the future, I wouldn't be working at all. I'd have made 1 million bets, and I'd be a millionaire rolling in it.
If Dave asks the 3 of us again when we're 60 to 80 years old, that
and we're
would
still
be
doing
it.
this podcast for some reason and feeling.
And if then the answer could be something obvious, like I wouldn't get hit by that car at 42 years old and die there, or something like that.
Wait! You said and die there. That we wouldn't be alive at 60.
If you ask me at 60 and 80, what I'd do different is not get hit by that car in my 40s would actually be a proper answer.
Or avoid that person from mugging me.
So I want to announce that we will be having a special episode with Jot in it on the 19th of June 2050.
2050,
yes. When we will be having the same conversation topic.
I was, for a moment there, I was thinking, wait, Stace, where are you taking this?
You haven't spoken to me about this.
Sorry, I don't remember this.
I'll be 40. I'll be 42, and Stacey will be behind the wheel of a car as I just go like wide-eyed, and she's just there sitting. The timeline must remain true.
Yeah.
But to answer Dave's question, I'm probably going to be in the same situation as Stacey is. I probably wouldn't change much other than just try and keep the mental attitude of like it's okay to take breaks. It's okay to not be great all the time at what you are passionate about. Just keep trying. Just keep evolving. But I think that's pretty much the only thing I would do. Really, is just tell myself, just keep that mental attitude on. Like, just keep trying, and don't give up on it. Because I admit there have been points where I've wanted to just give up on it completely because it's just like this point, especially in this day and age that we're living in the pandemic. It does bring everyone's mood down a bit. But yeah, like especially when I was doing like video editing, like from last year, I still have not edited those clips that we recorded last year. And to be honest, I've sort of kind of given up on that, but at the same time, I'm not going to give up on it completely.
It's one of those things that, do you know what, I'd fancy doing that one day.
Yeah. It was one of those things, but it's like I want to kind of move on from those past series that I did on YouTube and just start fresh, and probably just record a new series and then try and keep that consistent sort of keep editing and all that.
That is a perfect example of something. It's actually completely coincidental that somebody else we have here is Jot. When we had Huel last week, and Jot, Huel, and Larton and myself used to be in a little group we used to call Teamworks. We used to make little videos every now and then and stuff like that. And it got to a point where we tried to do it so hard, and we tried to put so much effort into it for no fucking reason. And I remember when it used to come up in conversation where people wanted to branch out and do their own thing, and we were there going, "No, you're a traitor. You're terrible. Why are you doing this? Like, why would you leave us and do your own thing?" And I'm so glad we've actually got to a point where we went, actually, maybe we do need a fresh start. Maybe we do need to do our own things. Yeah. And now I think our relationships as friends is even better than it was before because of it. So, sometimes if you do sit there now and go, yeah, Lauren just went, look at us now, holy crap,
buddy.
Holy crap, buddy. Yeah.
So if you do sit there and, like you said, just concentrate on this one thing, or maybe just start afresh, to try something new. It actually can be nice to start something new. I mean, I have my own streaming channel that has nothing to do with the rest of these arseholes. Bye. But every now and then they might pop on and they might play a game with me. Great.
Yeah.
And just leave it at
that. Glad to be here.
Looking back at 40, all you see is more of those what ifs.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's all hindsight at that point.
Yeah.
It is all hindsight at that point.
It's been very interesting for me. Oh, sorry, I keep interrupting you when you're trying to say something.
No, it's all good.
It's very interesting for me because I have got so many factors of those what ifs. Because it wasn't long ago when I was in a domestic violence thing, but through that, I've learned how to look out for certain friends and how to treat with certain people and look out for those huge warning signs. So even though it's a what if I didn't do that, it's still well, actually, it might have been a good thing that I did go through that. It's
experience and self-development.
Life experience.
That is how you learn. It's quite... Yeah. And like the question actually posed at the start, I understand the fear behind that because it is a fear of the unknown. And we're all afraid of what we don't know.
Of course we are.
It's the human condition, that is.
Yeah, we don't march onto the unknown just going, bring it on! Come on, bitch! Come on, bitch!
But the trick always is never to let that fear have a complete hold over your life. And for some people, that is going to be more difficult than it is to other people. Like, let's say, people who are more gregarious and stuff like that will find it much easier to adapt to it. But people who are stuck in a rut, the best thing that they can possibly do is set themselves small goals, all leading up to a big goal if it must be, but never uniformly that. Like, it needs to have separate goals not related to that, just to feel that sense of admiration and pride in themselves. But the achieving those goals should not take it shouldn't be set to an unreasonable standard to yourself, if that makes sense. Like, oh, I'm not a director now, but you are someone who has a job, someone who has wages coming in and stuff like that. Like, that is what you need to focus on at that pressing point of your life.
Also, you don't know when opportunity is going to knock on the door anyway. Because I mean, at the moment, I never thought this was going to be the case. You know, where I work, get recognised for being on television every now and then. I have people who've said that, they've just heard me on the radio. I have that kind of thing because I now work in activism. Something I never expected, but by chance, with me trying to get into the media, I met with a cameraman who turned around to me and said, would you like to be on our TV show? And following that, following that, I got things from it. So you never know where things will lead you. And now I'm so proud that I work in activism and I get these odd little jobs that bring in a very small amount of money, but they bring in a little money out of nothing. So don't think that your life is set now. It's not. Anything can happen. Anything can change.
And nothing's set in stone. Nothing's set in stone.
The reality of it is that it is still ongoing at this time. If you are older, in which first question is, why are you watching this stream? But like, if you're 60 odd or something like that. But
I was about to say he's 40. You're going to say something.
Thank you nonetheless. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching, but why are you here is a fair question, I feel like. Yeah.
Just listen to us prattle on.
But the other one is that at that point, you'll be able to properly appreciate what your life has been like and what your life has done. And at this stage that we're at, we aren't really in a position to make that overall judgment only on what we have so far. And if you aren't happy with it, that's fair. That might be like an underlying reason to like try and find a way to better yourself slowly and with achievable goals, but not to aim for that main one, and feel that everything else is substandard to it. Like, always feel pride in the small things that you do achieve.
Yeah,
always.
Sorry, continue.
No, exactly, because you never know, what's going to happen next, and you never know what chance and luck will actually bring into your life.
And you don't know, you will never know, because your goal, that top goal that you had in mind, like X amount of years ago, it could change like at any moment at that point.
Oh yeah.
Like, say for instance, you wanted to be a director, but then over time you change your mind and you want to do something smaller than that as your main goal.
No,
because it changes. Because it's like what I said before. Nothing's ever set in stone because it can change like at any moment at that point in your life.
It's what happened to me recently with this new job that I got, where I never saw myself doing it.
No, it's an incredible job. Well done.
It's made me way happier than I thought it would. For sure. There's a lot to get used to. There's a lot that I'm doing that I'm just like, wow, I'm doing this right now. Like, I'm very apprehensive, but I'm enjoying it. And whereas when you look at me a year before, 2 years before, or 3 years before, I was stuck in a rut doing the exact same thing with no hope of getting out of there, like in my own mind. So it's all about taking that leap, understanding that leap that you actually take could be small, and understanding that the achievable goal from that small leap will also be small, but still a goal and an achievement.
And, trying for these things that might seem out of bounds and out of reach, if you don't get them, don't beat yourself up over it.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you can do. You can go, well, I'll go and try something else.
Other things will come along, for sure.
Precisely. Anyway, we're hitting that 1 hour 29 mark, so maybe we should move on to Jot's but before we do, I'm just going to go quick toilet break, considering I've just went through an entire bottle of water, so I'll be back in a moment.
We've got to fill
so until
how long
so until then,
it's 2 hours.
Anyone who's in the chat, if you've got any more questions that you want to ask us, or ask these two more specifically to talk about, then now's the time to do that, whilst I just pop to the loo. I'll be back in a jiffy.
Hurry, run!
No, it's so unprofessional. He did this on the last stream as well. But then so did you.
Some people have very tiny, weak bladders. It's
Time
fine.
him. Okay. Hold on. How many seconds as well?
He's on 29.50 right now.
Okay.
He's been gone for about 10 seconds, so we'll call it 29.40.
Have you got a different clock to me? 29.40? What?
I might be behind on the stream. I'm going by stream clock.
Oh, that one there. Sorry. I've got like 3 different clocks in that case. Jesus Christ. Okay.
So he was on 1:29.40. Okay, remember him there. We'll time him coming back.
I also want to point out that entire conversation was for somebody who's actually left a while ago and said he's going to be back after he sorts something. So he's going to have to listen to that on the Spotify or like on YouTube.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's a guaranteed listen then, isn't it?
There we go.
Great.
Yeah, guaranteed. Although Squid said he's going to listen in, bless him as well. He's going to.
Is it bad though that when Murky asked, "How can you help someone who is a masochist like me?" and I just went, "Punish him." It's like in my own mind.
I saw that and I was just like, I'm just not going to answer that question. I don't want to.
Yeah, there's an obvious answer there, isn't there? It's just like,
Just when he said it, I just thought, oh gosh, I'm not going to. That's not worth the conversation. Jesus Christ Almighty! Oh, wasn't there some sort of Yes, that's right. Because while we're waiting for him, even though he's the one that pointed it out, there has been some new news that came out today about the fact that our COVID in the UK, the COVID-19 alert level's been reduced.
Yeah, from 4 to 3, was it?
Something like that. I mean, I know they're talking.
We've gone up DEFCON. It's all good. Yeah,
yeah, basically.
DEFCOV. Sorry, DEFCOV.
DEFCOV. Right, we'll remember that one. Hashtag DEFCOV.
Hashtag DEFCOV.
Hashtag DEFCOV. So if you guys want to talk about it and so it was made on Twitter, hashtag DEFCOV. Jesus Christ Almighty! If that got trending, I'd love it. But I know they're talking about opening hairdressers and stuff because of it.
Yeah, 13th, I think. Because my mother's a hairdresser, isn't she? So she said she might be back in the work on the 13th. I'm
you lucky bastard, by the way, because you still live with your mother and she can give you haircuts.
So yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
just yeah.
Oh, thank God, he's back.
What happened? Was it?
Well,
I'm sorry. Was it?
It was more than 2 minutes. So
it was more than 2 minutes
having
having a poop. Yeah.
No. I was getting bottled water as well.
No, oh God, we're just going with what Mark said. Anything more than 2 minutes and he's pooing.
Quick thoughts on Capitol Hill. It's a great place in Boston, I think, isn't it? What?
I don't even know what Capitol Hill is.
No, it's that place in Washington D.C. with is it?
Seattle.
Thank God he's back. I was holding my breath.
Cool.
Is that the Capitol building that's in Washington D.C. then?
Why do I have to Google everything? Capitol Hill. Capitol. It's only because I have a laptop now.
Dave's putting you to work at the moment, Steve.
Yes. Payment
Probably a good thing.
Culture wars. The accidental occupation of Seattle. What? I think this would warrant me having a better look into it before I talked about it, I'm afraid, because I understand it's protesters occupying parts of Seattle.
Oh,
for a week.
it's a police-free neighborhood, and is that what you're talking about, Dave?
He's just said agreed.
No, I've heard
known about it already.
I'd heard they were aiming for it, but didn't know it had actually gone through. And living here in Britain, I don't think we can actually comment on it properly because of the simple fact that we aren't exposed to that society. We're exposed to second-hand knowledge of that societal change.
Half of our episode last episode was about Black Lives Matter. So we have gone into it quite a lot, and you can listen to that on Spotify, on YouTube, if you want to catch up on what we spoke to about it on then with Huel.
I'm not saying that we aren't in a position to comment on the Black Lives Matter thing. I'm saying that we aren't in a position to comment on that development in Capitol Hill where they've gone police free.
Yeah, we've not researched it properly.
In the end, yeah, exactly. That, and also it's their choice, and we'd only be getting secondhand knowledge of it, not anything that we actually have that thing. But yeah, we'd be making an uninformed comment on it is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
right, let's move on to what we were going to move on to.
Yes.
Joe, what is your topic?
Yeah, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I didn't want to read out Huel's one. Let's just leave that comment alone. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Anyway, moving on. Job, what's your personal topic?
I was thinking we could talk about some genetic editing and genetic modification, if you guys actually are comfortable with that. Because I saw there was a news report. I can't put why, but it was the House of Lords, I think, talking about how they might ease up on the laws regarding GM foods here. If it was something along the lines of that, but basically just like leading up to opening up to genetic editing and genetic modification.
Do you want to just expand on that? Because I can see there's a couple of people going, what? And I'm not fully aware of it myself.
So, genetic editing is the process where you take the DNA genome and to put it in basics, you use CRISPR kits, which is CRISPR. You can give them quick Google to have a read.
Crispy kits, not Rice Krispie kits.
Crispy kits.
not Rice Krispies, just in case anyone gets confused like that, like I did.
So these CRISPR kits, what they basically do, in basic terms, they're cut and paste for DNA strands. So you can identify a section of the gene that you want to remove and replace with another one, and through this, the end goal is to change there's two different kinds of cells which can be changed with it, which is changing the animal, person, or plant in question, or changing future generations. So they've been trying to bring back the woolly mammoth with it by slowly introducing fur cells to Indian elephants and stuff.
Haven't they been doing that for a while now, though?
They have been doing it for a while, yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing that for years. I've seen stuff like that on the news.
I never thought I'd see in my life, go to the zoo and go, oh, look, a mammoth. Like,
I think it'd be awesome. Not gonna lie, I think it would be awesome if we walked into the zoo one day. I'm just
waiting for someone to go, look, it's Jurassic Park.
That's exactly what it is. It is exactly what Jurassic Park does. In Jurassic Park, they fill out the missing bits of dinosaur DNA, which has decayed with frog DNA and like amphibian DNA and stuff like that. So that means they're not the real dinosaurs that you see. They're genetically modified mutants. And that's what the mammoth and the proposed unicorn idea and stuff like that would actually be. They wouldn't be your idea of it. But it would look like sort of like a cross between a horse and a rhinoceros, because that's like what they'd have to like pick out, like the animal that actually has a single horn on their body and stuff like that. Yes, so
fake myths.
fake myths.
Fake myths become reality, or do they?
And rhinoceros. There's got to be a picture somebody's done.
Yeah, I know what Karen's quoting on there. Yeah. But
it's a meme, Stace. Ignore what I said.
What? I didn't.
It's a meme.
Rhinoceros. I will Google that one later, but I feel like I'd regret it.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't found the horse and rhinoceros one, but I found that
I'm not fully aware of it either. But I'm just going to.
Someone crossed a zebra and a rhinoceros for a start.
But no,
I can just about see it.
Yeah, it's the lighting apart.
Before we go into, this whole downward spiral of what animals could be crossed with each other in a horrible science accident where you just plunge them both into a test.
Unicorns.
One unicorn, damn it.
The applications that can affect the real world and like stuff that matter is you can genetically edit people to be AIDS resistant, and you could in theory plant plant life that doesn't do disease as bad, but
well, when you were talking about
still
it,
in its infancy and stuff like that.
Like years ago they were talking about trying to edit out cystic fibrosis.
Yes, that is one of the ones that was going on. Yeah. But what happened in gene therapy was they had some fatalities at the beginning of it, so people went off that very quickly and it didn't get the funding it needed. But then when gene editing came on, no one's had like a fatality yet for it, but there has been some controversy with like this Chinese scientist experimenting on people and therefore going against ethics and stuff like that. And that's all what it boils down to with ethics wise, is because if it is possible, it is therefore possible to create your idea, the idea of the perfect human and stuff like that. Yeah, that is one thing that they could decide goes against what it means to be human. I don't want any humans to be bald and stuff like that. Yeah, so
it's
it is completely an ethical issue.
I mean, imagine, I know it's going to sound a very extreme example, but imagine if the Nazis had it and everybody's just born Aryan.
That is exactly where the ethics question comes from. Yeah, because their idea was to eradicate everything that wasn't in their image pure, all right? Whereas the ethics now is, what exactly do we define as the perfect human, and how people would actually change it, given the this is the extreme debate of it, of course. So, but there's a really great film actually with Ethan Hawke. I think is I think it's Galacta or something like that with Ethan Hawke, and in it he plays a guy who was not genetically modified as a baby, if I remember correctly. Gattaca, thank you. Yeah. So he plays a guy who was not genetically modified as a baby, whereas his brother is a test tube baby, so he's been perfectly genetically altered and resembles that society's idea of a perfect human. And it all revolves around both of them like going into the space program and stuff like that. But his brother almost drowns, and he actually saves him because there's nothing wrong with him. Ethan Hawke is just like a normal human being.
But I'm guessing, you could
but
argue
it's still
racism
classed by
and
that.
stuff.
The society classes him as invalid for the program, which could also mean invalid. If it's like, so it all comes down to the ethics behind it. Is if we agree as a society what defines acceptable and unacceptable in human traits and traitology. But what the Lords were thinking of doing recently is another separate issue with it, which was opening up for GM crops, genetically modified crops. And while they're resistant to disease, if one of them does get a disease, then it's like there's other problems, like all of them can like suffer it, and if any of them get into the hay seeds of the stored seeds of actual farmers, they can change all of them into these genetically modified strains and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ethical issues that are surrounding it. It's more just like, getting like that talk up and going on it more than anything.
That's a lot of information. Jesus.
Yeah, I just info dumped you there, didn't I?
My brain.
We can cover 20 minutes with it. Let's go.
I mean, talking in the human sort of example, I love the diversity we have as life, and even to the extent of levels of autism and stuff have so much interest into it. And some of these people with autism are smarter than most of us because they have so much of an interest in one subject. And it's amazing. And I think the world is so much more amazing if we look at how individual people work and how our differences actually help as a society. So, no, we shouldn't modify things, but then should we? Because at the same time we're sitting there saying, well, you are saying you don't want to modify them so they don't have HIV or AIDS. You're saying you don't want to modify them so they don't have cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, that's the exact problem, which is the extreme of it is, of course, the ethical quandary of what makes a perfect human. The other one is opening it up and exposing ourselves to the potential dangers, but also the benefits of it in the low-key sort of areas.
The issue is power corrupts absolute.
Yeah.
As soon as you open up that valve and say, yeah, we won't allow cystic fibrosis in AIDS, someone might sit there and go, well, we don't want people to be autistic, do we? And then that might take away from those people who have made a massive contribution to society because they're autistic or because their autism has helped them in achieving that.
There's two different models for disabilities now, which is the medical model of disability and the social model of disability. Now, the medical model states that people are disabled because of the fact that they have conditions on them, so can't walk, blind, deaf, etc., etc., and it is up to them to better their lives. The social model of disability it states that people are disabled by society, not by themselves. So it is up to the society to open up.
They're not fitting into society's norms, and therefore they are not accepted.
It's responsibility. So the society is what disables them, not them that's disabled. Towards the society. So it's up to the society to make it more inclusive for them. So that's why we have ramps outside shops and stuff like that now. We do believe in the social model of disability. You also need to believe in the medical model, because otherwise then they won't get the the drugs, the assistance that they actually need, the physical therapy and stuff like that as well.
Or just to live a normal life.
You need a degree of both, but if one of them gets focused on more than the other in this quandary, you're right, it could lead to people just completely treating people with autism and stuff like that with social class citizens, as second class citizens is the extreme of it. But wiping it out in its entirety like that, it's definitely like a massive grey area, and walking on a glass floor at this point, this early stage on. And
Huel said, "Can you elaborate on social disabling them? I don't get it."
If you go to the shop now, and you have a step there, people with wheelchairs will struggle to get up it, because of the fact that they can't. Yeah. So, but therefore, what that shop has done is made it entirely inclusive for anyone who can go up that step, but excluded everyone who has a disability. So, the social model actually presents it so that the society has a responsibility to make it inclusive for them. Yeah.
Huel also says
putting in a ramp.
Yeah, so Huel also says, you say this, but there's also degrees of autism. It's a huge spectrum. Some of them generally can't function, can't talk, can't handle too much sensory stimuli.
Yeah, amen.
Which is also...
It then goes into the idea of, if we are genetically modifying people, how do we tell which strand of autism is bad and which strand of autism is good? It
shouldn't be done in the first place, on an ethical basis. But the
ethical thing would also be
making people more resistant to HIV and AIDS and stuff like that. Yeah, that's why there is a difference in the genetic editing that's taking place, which is some affect the cells of the person that is taking the injection or whatever, and the other ones affect the cells of their offspring. So if you do it to yourself, that's completely consensual. That's if it works or not. Eventually, it's your choice how you want to change your own body, right?
Because you're that individual making that decision.
Yeah, but if with the passing it on to future offspring, you're affecting that history of genetics for decades, if not millennia. That one decision will change in a butterfly effect down the line.
John's talking some sci-fi shit.
Yeah, but sci-fi shit that's existing today and could develop into this. Yeah. So.
Again, it's going so deep. We need a bigger ladder.
You could also be talking about, the best prime minister Britain's ever had has been genetically changed, and due to a butterfly effect is now working in, I don't know, as a bin man.
I'm a trumpet. You're a baritone, mate.
Apparently, Huel was kidding and called us a trumpet.
No, he called me a trumpet. So I was like, yeah, you're a baritone.
But when it comes to food and stuff, I know you can say it could affect the entire batch, and there could be But is it a bad thing? Because surely we're just creating more resistant food or more healthier food for people.
Well, there are drawbacks to using GM crops. Yes, you'll get more of it. Yes, the farmers will make more money out of it. Yes, it could end world hunger theoretically, but if it reduces the amount of topsoil that we need and stuff like that, if it stops locusts from eating it. But if anything goes wrong with those strains, we wouldn't be able to fix it, because if it's so widespread, it will change every strain of plant life, in that family. It comes down to we did it by not with injections and stuff like that, but with dogs and wolves. Think how different dogs are today to what they were back then when we started domesticating them and stuff like that. You have stuff like pugs and stuff like that now. Think how different a pug and a wolf is.
Yeah, I don't agree with pugs.
And look at the health problems and stuff like that pugs have now.
Yeah.
So if it goes too far without any oversight and stuff like that, it is definitely dangerous.
Yeah.
And if it, so it's the ethical quandary is just talking about it and making people aware of it now.
For those who aren't fully aware of why the pug's an issue, pugs are basically offspring from the same family. So same thing as perhaps you mated with your mum. Obviously, there's going to be some issues due to there being too similar of a DNA strand, and eventually you create a dog who can barely breathe. That was the issue.
It's very but any breed of dog is different from what wolves are, except for Tamaskans, which are the closest to the wolves, right, and stuff like that. But eventually, down the line, if you change the genetic structure of it and you keep those genetics in place and you keep them ongoing to the future generations, what you can never predict what happens all the way down the line.
I still feel almost as if we're right to modify food, but not right to modify people.
Well, sorry, Stace.
I still feel we're right to modify food, but not right to modify people. I know there could be possible effects down the line, but surely you could enclose this entire experiment, as you will, in one place, which could have later benefits for other people.
Well, I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm actually all for the development of it, for sure. But the way that we go about it is definitely what we need to be careful with, especially as the people who sell CRISPR kits now aren't actually doctors. They're genetic. They're basically grad students just selling them out of their basements half the time.
Yeah, I mean, I googled CRISPR kit, and it looks like something you could just pick up from a shop.
You don't need a license to sell them and stuff like that. It's just someone making it. And while they might not work and stuff like that, you're still injecting it into your body at that point and changing it and all that stuff.
Oh wait, so that's for humans, the CRISPR kits?
Yes, CRISPR kit is for changing the human genome.
So someone's going, I want to change my own genome, buying a kit off Amazon, and then just injecting themselves.
But the CRISPR kits aren't all that bad, because it is... I said, the CRISPR kit is the cut and paste mechanic for your genome. So that is how they're making the stuff like treating cystic fibrosis through gene editing and treating building immunity to AIDS and stuff.
It just surprises me that anybody can get hold of them.
Oh yeah. There's no oversight and stuff like that. I think John Oliver made a piece on it at one point, sometime in the last 3 years or something like that. But it hasn't changed since then. But the basis of it that I'm interested in is just raising the awareness and getting the conversation properly started.
Yeah.
So it's nothing more than that. If I had to put an opinion, I'm all for it. I just need there to be oversight, and definitely need to be there to be the funding for it.
Has just asked, what does the CRISPR kits do exactly?
I can't explain them properly, because they basically just cut out a piece of the DNA and replace it with another strand that's designed to do something else.
Put it this way, the tagline for one of these CRISPR kits literally says, biohack the planet.
Yeah, biohacking, that's exactly it. So, in their perfect form, what they're aiming for, you'll be able to inject yourself, and your brown hair will turn to red, like from like growing over and stuff like that. Like it
I need one.
Yeah, but that's definitely decades away, I think, because one guy tried to inject himself with a thing that would build up his muscles easier in the John Oliver video, and it didn't do fuck all.
No, that's already been invented. It's called steroids.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we were talking about earlier, funnily enough. But that's fine. That's fine if it's only for yourself. But if it affects future generations, then there definitely needs to be oversight, like there, because you are then making your decision according to your own beliefs and could affect future generations in miles to come. Then,
Huel has asked, "Will it make my knob a bit smaller?"
I was going to say, I'm not even going to read that out loud, but Stacey's going to go ahead and do it anyway.
It's because I know how to answer this. Smaller? That's what I was going to say. Unfortunately not, because it's far too smaller.
I'll send you some photos that will do. Thank you, Mark.
Comparing it to a banana and stuff.
Oh, God's sake.
Jesus
no,
Christ. But no, surely having a kit that allows you to inject yourself with pretty much whatever you want, it's just stupid.
If it affects you, if it affects you, and you actually have experts in place to be able to inform you of the decision, sure, fine, whatever. If it gets to that point in life,
if you've got people who know what they're doing, but the fact that someone can buy this thing off eBay or whatever.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. The fact that anyone can buy them. If there was like more like a doctor actually like suggested this or whatever and said it's completely fine, and then did like a sort of.
I'm just waiting for the idiot who sits there and goes, cyanide. Let's give that one a shot. Yes.
Yeah.
What?
No.
Just injecting himself with cyanide is a bad idea anyway.
Yeah, I know, but it's going to I mean, like I said at the start of this podcast, there's how dense the population is and how dense the population is. There's somebody who's going to be dense enough to think, oh, that's got to be all right. Let's stick that in my body.
But no, Cadwin pointed it out there ages ago in the chat where he just went, I want someone to cure baldness, and he meant it as a joke and everything like that. But the
hello person.
The whole he meant it as a joke, but the danger is that people might actually get those ideas and just go like, well, I don't want humans to be bald anymore. Well, I don't want people to be short anymore. Well, I don't want people to suffer dwarfism anymore. When people with dwarfism will say they're not suffering. That is the whole point of it.
That's precisely it. I mean, it's often been said in my case that what I'm going through could be purely genetic or something along those lines and could possibly be changed because obviously it's some sort of hormonal imbalance or it's an imbalance with my brain to my body, that kind of thing. But at the same time, it's also what's made me me. And it's also the thing that has given me this wonderful career that I've got in, my activism. And every step that I've had forward in my life is because I am transgender. So, although I don't want to be in a way because it is a burden, it is difficult, it's also a defining characteristic of myself. And that shut everybody up.
Entirely. No. I'm entirely in agreement. But at the same, I'm not saying there are stuff that I wouldn't change about myself. It's just like if I could inject myself and be thin, that is an entirely how could that seem bad with that statement?
And where do I get that injection?
Like that, yeah, exactly. People will be jumping on it. But it's when people says the stuff like all humans should be this size and stuff like that, that it then becomes the ethical question that we need to ask ourselves, and the question that we need to ask ourselves as to where the direction the science is actually taking us. Now, where you will get scaremongers trying to jump on it if people don't get the activism speaking, like that did happen with gene therapy and stuff like that, and vaccinations. Anti-vaxxing has actually become a scare topic in science now because of the work of one doctor. So if people don't start talking and getting an understanding, raising awareness of this now, people aren't going to be having the discussions that need to be had with it. And
I just want to point out, this is actually true. I work with someone whose sister has decided not to vaccinate her children because she's worried about them getting autism.
That would be...
That's an insult to well, not to me personally, but because I'm on the spectrum, but yeah, that's just an insult to people who have autism. There's nothing wrong with being autistic.
The fact that most vaccines don't cause autism is the issue to begin with.
No, it all comes from down to the scaremongering of one scientist there who said that a certain vaccine contained mercury, and mercury could lead to autism and stuff like that. But while that was taken out for safety, and no other vaccines have mercury in them and stuff like that, just because of the work of that one guy, even though there was no clear evidence that it pointed to, that specific type of mercury actually leading to autism and stuff like that. It bounced off of that, and it became a big thing. The people, again, a John Oliver video, funnily enough, because he just talks about this kind of stuff like that, why you shouldn't be lulled into scaremongering and stuff like that, but why we need oversight. And So
the reason I brought it up in the first place as well is because we were talking about coronavirus and we're talking about what happens when we get a vaccine and stuff, and she turned around and she went, "Oh, I'm not going to get it. My sister doesn't vaccinate, so she's not going to get it either." So why wouldn't you get a vaccine that could potentially save your life? I don't get it.
Well, it's not just their lives they're putting at danger then, it's people, like we said earlier when we were talking about vaccinations, it is people who are susceptible to that disease. So kids with autoimmune diseases and stuff like that, they're more at danger of being around those kids than those kids are of getting the disease. So, was it mumps or measles? I can't remember which one of them. It had been eradicated in America. And then this one scientist guy who'd been scaremongering all this up back in the day went and talked to the Somali community in, I think it was Massachusetts or Michigan. I can't remember which one. And
Michigan.
Yeah, it was Michigan, was it, Luke? Yeah. So
no, you said Michigan. Sorry.
Anyway, one of those two. He went there, talked to the Somali community there, scared them off vaccinating, and measles and mumps actually came back into that, and actually, it was a fairly wide pandemic among the kids at that point. And the same thing happened in France. Herd immunity is an important thing, and with vaccinations. So we've come full circle now, apparently, because we were talking about that very much earlier, weren't we?
This is sort of coming into a lovely little circle because we've just hit our 2-hour mark, but that also adds the 5 minutes of intro, so we are going for another 3 minutes till we hit 5 o'clock. That's when we stop. But it's coming into a nice full circle, like sort of slowly ending the podcast in a nice little bubble.
It better be a bubble, because self-distancing and all that.
Oh yeah, we need our self-distancing bubble because that made so much. It's because we're Welsh. It's because we're Welsh, and in Wales we're still very much going, "Oh no, we're not going to do anything like that. We're going to stay locked down.
We're staying in our bubble."
Although we are
we're
opening
3 weeks
non-essential
behind
shops.
everyone else, and we're happy about it.
We are reopening non-essential shops on Monday.
Non-essential, yeah. Is Ann Summers non-essential?
Excuse me, that is very much essential.
Yeah, exactly. So shouldn't that have been opened ages ago? It's like
I don't know. The world's gone crazy, so I just can't keep up with the world at the moment.
Just going through the chat, I disagree about the injection to get you thin. I feel that if something that is totally in your control right now and you can achieve it. Whereas Stacey, for example, going through what she has been through, fighting to be who she really is. Oh, thank you. Taking years, you have the ability to make your goal achievable without the need of injections.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Some people would say, we've got our minority, transgenderism, has got a massive suicide rate, a massive rate of depression, and a massive rate of self-harm. So if you could technically take that out, would you? Would you stop people from being transgender, or does it devalue what, especially me in my case, because of the work I do, what we've been fighting for?
The ethical question there is actually really interesting, because it wouldn't be your choice when it comes to gene editing to change by these injections and CRISPR kits, because they need to be done in the embryo while you were developing. So it wouldn't be your choice to do it. It would be the parents' choice to change them from male to female and stuff like that. So if it was personal choice there, like to change your body or to change who you are and stuff like that, that is perfectly fine. It is entirely in your capacity, your choice, everything like that. It is all great. What you want to do is your choice to your own body.
Yeah.
But with gene editing, that's not where it comes into. The ethical quandary is what you do to your kids or future generations of humans who don't have a voice to it and stuff.
And without going into this conversation, this is the same conversation people have about abortion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, just thought I'd mention that.
Liam just told me to. Liam just told me.
That's
fuck
why.
you,
That's
John.
why.
And
So there's a staple of our life.
I'm fully in agreement with that. Why fuck me?
And
I
apparently,
smiling at that.
apparently, Squid's going to have a baby with Larton. And I think on that note, we should call it a podcast.
Good for you, Latin. Okay, let's move it. Let's wrap this up. And
So, thank you
tie it in
guys.
nice bow.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. As usual,
Yeah,
this
thank
will
you very
be,
much.
if you've missed any parts of it, it will be on Spotify, YouTube, and the multiple millions of others podcast things we're on, because, believe it or not, it's not that difficult to do.
Yeah. All the links will be on our Twitter. So
they're
if
also
you're
just
not
underneath you if you're on Twitch, D Live or Mixer.
Yes.
They're all there. YouTube's a bit weird, but YouTube is literally just there so we have the video up and I don't have to do anything. It's me being lazy. Also, if you want to be a guest like Jot, thank you very much for being a guest on our show, obviously.
Anytime, baby.
Either message myself or Luke, or like Huel, if you wanted to send in a message to us for us to discuss something on the podcast, feel free to email us. Again, the link for that is in our description. Thanks everybody for watching.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Hooroo.
Hey, you know what time it is?
Oh yeah.
Let's just talk.
Gonna
We're
talk.
gonna talk.
Oh yeah.
It's time to
It's
talk.
time to talk.